We all know the story of the king of Wakanda. But what about his brother? What happened to the second son?
My brother. He was destined for the throne, his future well secured. But mine, it take a different path. There must be a guardian within Wakanda, for as righteous as the Black Panther is. His claws, they protect our home from outside. And so, it is my job to protect the inside.
Hello, have you heard news? Yes, Black Panther is cancelled. I don't know why, I just felt like being Polish for the opening of the video, but just so you know, that trailer you saw had nothing to do with this game. It was just my own personal exercise into just how easy it is to create the stories to these games. It's not that difficult to cook up something that is compelling and doesn't exactly lean heavily on what is already established lore, as we know, ticks off the fan base when it's abused. So why not create something brand new that doesn't trample all over T'Challa, that doesn't trample all over the Avengers, that doesn't trample all over the Marvel Cinematic and Gaming universe, though there really isn't a gaming universe at the moment, but arguably what I put up there, the Assassin's Creed Heart of Wakanda concept, could have acted as the catalyst for the Marvel gaming universe, if you will. And so this is what I want to impress upon you as we go through this video. You have heard the evidence. We are going to go through that as well, but I want to throw a wrench into what these videos usually go through, okay? Because what we're going to do is I want to talk to you about what we created here, okay? So you're not going to hear the audio. It's just on loop. But like I said, when we got into this, the purpose was to show how easy it is to create these games. Now, Ubisoft said they needed 100 days to fix their company, okay? All right? They needed 100 days to reorganize everything. We did a video about that. That'll be in the recommended video at the end of this one, okay? Now, the situation that EA finds itself in is similarly, as a publisher, it has bought itself quite a bit of headaches, okay? Now, you've heard of Sony having these headaches with Concord 2.0, aka Marathon. Likewise, this was the Black Panther game that Cliffhanger rather, was supposed to take care of. Now, discussing film brings up a bit of this right here. The studio was developing the game, and there really hasn't been any information other than that put out on the game, okay? So quite obviously, what I've cooked up here apparently is a bit further along than what these guys were doing for the past 4 years. So, what I want to break down for you is very simply this, okay? So, when we get into this, who you're looking at here, obviously T'Challa, right? He's not the focus of this game. Consider for a minute that, like I said in the opening, you would not be leaning into having a story about the Black Panther himself. This story would take place in Wakanda, and like the Eyes of Wakanda TV series that's coming out from Disney Plus, I don't have any faith in it. But the series that's coming out soon here from Disney Plus, that one is supposed to expand on sort of the mythos of Wakanda, not the day-to-day life. This was meant to be one of those, in effect, a CW show that you would like play game inside of, play the game inside of. I know English, believe me. And so that's why T'Challa isn't the focus. He's off fighting wizards and sorcerers, space ninjas, somewhere else in the world, while his brother is taking care of business back in Wakanda as the assassin. Now, my proposition is that EA and Ubisoft work together to make this happen. Now, EA does a lot of good things, but they've been pretty weak recently. Now, I know that Battlefield 2 is on a huge surge right now, trying to convince EA itself to publish Battlefield 3, or at least make it happen anyway. So I recognize that that's out there and that's happening, but EA as a whole has just been blah, 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 blah. Just like Sony has been blah, 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 Microsoft, all the rest of them. And this is why I thought it would be good to bring the two of those together, because the two schools of design that these companies are famous for would work very well having them paired together, as well as EA having a long-term contract with Marvel. I almost said the other company. With Marvel, okay? So again, we have the assassin. He's the king's brother, which means in the usual royalty of things, that guy doesn't really do anything. He's just kind of there. He does stuff, and usually in these stories, he ends up getting unalived for the sake of YouTube censorship. He ends up getting unalived for the sake of giving the hero a motivation to go after the villain more spiritedly, if you will. And so this is where this character kind of breaks that cycle. So rather than being the sacrificial lamb that gives T'Challa the motivation to go after these characters that have caused this disaster, this instead is a character that takes care of the interior of Wakanda while T'Challa is protecting Wakanda from the outside. Okay? Now, again, this is all just my personal concept, has nothing to do with what Cliffhanger was doing because they didn't put out anything. They didn't even put out a trailer for this thing. They didn't even put out a casting. They didn't say anything at all about it. It was just in the works. So here you go, a more complete presentation than Cliffhanger's ever put out. So here you have it. You have Kethlani is what I called him. All right. Now, in the tradition of the Assassin's Creed like franchise, the hero, the main character, is supposed to have a name that is either based off of or a variation of a word for hawk or predator, bird, a bird of prey, if you will. I know English, believe me. And so you're supposed to. I started this off with the Polish accent, and it's not helping me to keep tripping over English. I'm so sorry. I was born in the USA, lived here all my life, don't travel much, so it's just sorry. It's me tripping over my own words here. So Kethlani, however, he is a here and now assassin rather than jumping into the Animus, which clearly Ubisoft hates now. They broke it all to pieces. The lore around the Animus is completely shattered between Valhalla and Shadows. It just doesn't matter anymore. So just get rid of it. He's a here and now assassin. You are not regressing into Kethlani. You are just him in the game. And his story is that T'Challa was destined for the throne and he didn't have a purpose. So he found one with the assassins. And the assassins tasked him with dealing with the corruption within Wakanda that is inspired by the Templar, a corruptive branch of the Templar exclusive to Wakanda. And this involves nobility, cult members, and even mobsters that have set up shop either natively from Wakanda or as outsiders who built their sort of trust here and earned a place in order to exploit Wakanda. Okay? Now, already, this sounds way more interesting than whatever Cliffhanger was going to do, having T'Challa race around trying to get some guy because he was a different color of his skin. All right? Because I'll remind you, okay? Before we get into what happened with that, I want to remind you this is who was the narrative designer for this game from Cliffhanger, okay? So think for a minute here. We've got EA's Marvel Black Panther game. The narrative designer responds after video surfaces of her bragging that on a previous title, Validate, a dating game, very awful dating game, no white people were on that dev team. And she said, I had fears of certain treatment toward my marginalized workers when she agreed to take this job. Okay? Because this is what she had to say before. And here it is in its full. We're not going to interrupt it. We're going to let it go.
I have a team of 21 right now for Validate. It's a pretty big team. It's a crazy big team for indie games. But who is your team? Validate has a team of mostly all people of color. We have no white people on our team. I did that because I wanted to create a safe environment. And I know the best way for an environment to be safe is to be around people who are just like me. And I'm not saying that white people in the industry are creating unsafe environments. I'm not saying that. That is not what I'm saying. I am saying that sometimes it is hard to work with white people because they think that something made okay, but it was really a microaggression. And no one wants to deal with that while they're trying to make a game that they love.
And so this is what happened, okay? After all that blustering about how she's got to have her own race, a team of her own race, in fact, in order to have any type of success or to feel comfortable, I don't even know what the hell a microaggression is. You're either aggressing or you're not. You're not going, oh, I'm kind of aggressing, I'm microaggressing, I don't want to over-aggress, whatever that means. But anyway, here's what happened. EA cancels the Black Panther game and closes Cliffhanger Studios. This is the third round of layoffs at EA this year. Now, for you and me, that's like, woohoo, they're finally learning the lesson. But this comes as a bit bitter for me because, again, I believe that the Black Panther IP is gold. Now, the MCU likes to abuse this character, likes to like shove an agenda up his, blaster, if you will. But T'Challa as a character has been focused on uplifting the legacy of Africa. In particular, whenever Wakanda is in danger, you can expect T'Challa to have his claws out, ready to fight for its honor. And in reality, what we got was more of an execution of what can we do to browbeat people about the current racial politics that are either real or imagined. Okay? And that was probably what killed this, is that, as I said earlier, Cliffhanger could not find their way around an agenda. They couldn't figure out how to tell the story of Black Panther without keeping him out in the middle of Avengers business, browbeating them over their white attitudes, or defending Wakanda from some white aggressor, because people who look like me can only do wrong, according to the narrative designer. Remember? Remember that kooky broad? This lady, we just got done with her. Well, let's just take a quick trip down her employment history, will you? Will we? We'll have to take a look here. So Smash JT went and dug this up for us. So, you know, I know you're already subscribed to Smash JT, but if you're not, check him out. It's at Smash JT over on X.com. I'll spit it out right eventually. So here we go. Now, you'll note right here, it says narrative designer Sweet Baby Inc. And from Sweet Baby Inc., she went into Cliffhanger. Right? Bing bang, right through, okay? Now, Soft Not Weak was another game company that was likewise a kind of like an elbow drop on any type of civility in gaming. It was all about agenda driven browbeating, attacking what is a gamer. Okay. So then here's the kicker: she left the company or got fired back last year. So this character, this person, this racially obsessed narrative designer from Sweet Baby Inc. was gone from the company, and then EA, having witnessed the damage that she had done to Cliffhanger Studios, decided to shutter the whole thing, not just the game, the studio too. And so this is what the president of EA had to say. This is Laura Millet. I think that's how you say it. Millet? If you're hearing that truck go by, feel free to hit subscribe. That guy's on his way to do it. I'll get it right eventually. So anyway, these decisions are hard, Melee wrote. They affect people we've worked with and learned from and shared real moments with. We're doing everything we can to support them, except keeping their job going, including finding opportunities within EA where we've had success helping people land new roles. As such, we've not heard anything about this narrative designer from Sweet Baby Inc. finding a new job inside of EA. Now, how about that? What a surprise, right? But we'll go on, and also kind of this curveball showed up in Laura's email. It says they're going to be moving away from development of future licensed IP, that's Black Panther, Marvel, that we do not believe will be successful in our changing industry. See, this pisses me off. I don't think that Black Panther is the problem here. I really believe that the biggest issue that they have is that they are trying to shove an agenda into this, and there's no place for gameplay in the middle of all that. Just like I showed you with that Assassin's Creed crossover, Ubisoft could solve their problems by working with EA, who has the license with Marvel, who has a different play style from Ubisoft, to create something new. Now, Ubisoft is looking for a new way to do business. This is a great way to test it with something that gets Google SEO right out the bat. No problem. But they're not smart enough to do that. They're not focused on the problem. Remember, we were told 100 days to fix Ubisoft. They're not able to do it. This would have been day one for me if I was on that team. I'd have been like, how do we get those Marvel characters into Assassin's Creed costumes? Marvel Rivals is gigantic right now. It's not just because of the big booty, it's because those characters are legitimately interesting to follow around. They have funny, interesting things to say, especially when you understand the history of them, or even have a passing glance at who they are and what they represent to the universe they're in. But it is what it is. Now over here, finally, she wanted to clarify that, oh, BT dubs, no feelings are hurt. We still have our partnership with Marvel. It remains strong. Trust us, guys. We've got multi-titles going, and it's a long-term collaboration. Really, really, it's not going anywhere. Please don't uninvest with EA. Yeah, I don't know. This is what's going to end up kind of falling apart, is that EA, like Ubisoft, does not have a direction right now. They're floundering trying to keep up with the gaming market that's now driven by indie games. It is. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 is a huge broadside blow to the fleet of mainstream developers. Now, I hate to trip over that, but I'm trying to find the right word so I don't accuse them of war crimes, okay? But these indie companies have come through and completely changed the pace at which these companies, these major companies, have to keep up. They've been happy making these, like, 10-year development cycles on these $400 million games that nobody wants to play. Concord, Marathon, the list goes on and on and on. Look at Assassin's Creed Shadows. They can't even prove that they got 2 million sales. Meanwhile, Claire Obscure Expedition 33 can barely count how many sales. They can barely keep track of how many sales are coming through. Same with Schedule 1. And this is what EA and Ubisoft cannot keep up with. Microsoft too. None of these publishers can keep up with how fast the indies can put out these games because their focus is not on trying to insert an agenda. Their focus is on entertaining you and bringing to life their passion, something that these corporations have no clue about anymore. But you'll have to let me know what you think about all this below. I will put more of Kethlani's story down there, so I'm not boring you with a full write-up about this thing that'll never exist. If it does interest you, there'll be a couple paragraphs down in the description, down in the episode notes. So just feel free to check that out if that interests you. If not, I'll see you in the next video. And as always, guys, good luck out there.